Hey, wild-hearted being. I was doing some research for this video to see what to call it, and one of the things I noticed was, videos about talking about feeling isolated and alone on the spiritual journey. And something that kind of really, it just really gets me is like, since I was a young child, I had these like spiritual experiences and this spiritual awareness. It's not something I've come to later in life. And it can be really hard, like having those experiences as a young person and not having the context, like anyone to turn to talk about this and to explain it and to know what to do with it. Because you see, like in this culture, in this westernized culture that I live in anyway, that stuff has been stripped away over decades and centuries, really, and hidden away. So, coming to like that experience when I was young, as a teenager or even younger, there was no context for that. It's just like hidden away. People don't talk about it. So, I get really passionate about this topic because, you know, sure, we are alone in those experiences ultimately, but there is just such a culture of the lone wolf and being alone and everything in the modern world, and it just bugs me, like it the reason like we're so alone in this experience partly I think is just because we don't have like the cultural reference for this. We don't have to feel that alone in it. Like I said, ultimately of course we're alone as a being in the universe, and we have to grapple with that aloneness. We don't have to be that alone. We're actually like really alone because of how our society is constructed. And the fact that we have to hide, as sensitive, spiritually aware, neurodivergent people, we have to hide this stuff away because people think it's bullshit and they want to shut it down. I've been shut down for like decades and I'm fucking sick of it. So, if this has like captured anything in you, I would love to hear your experience because I'm really passionate about other people like me feeling seen and heard. Because it is hard, I tell you, it can be bloody hard growing up as a young person experiencing that stuff. Like if I look at my sister, all my sisters are very sensitive. If I look at one of my sisters in particular, she like I know that she went through some really difficult stuff growing up. Like she's so aware of like other people's emotions, and she's really psychic. Um, all my sisters are, and so that was hard. Who could she tell? Nobody could help her. There was no like wise person for her to go to and understand that. So she doesn't have to be alone in that experience. It's just that the cultural reference is not there. And if you're watching this and you're feeling like, yeah, well, great, I really want to hear your story. And that's one of the reasons why I've made this 5 interview podcast experiment because I want to see I want people to feel less alone in this experience. I want us to, rebuild our connection and culture around this and not have it like treated like shit and like poo-pooed because it's not reasonable, it's not doesn't fit into the like age of reason and materialistic view on the world. Listen to people. Listen to us. Whew. Let's listen to each other. And so here's an excerpt from one of the episodes with Derrick Ivey. You'll find out much more about beautiful Derrick in when the episode drops. So listen to this and yeah, hear his story. What did that look like for you as a child, having that spiritual, or growing up, having that spiritual awareness, but, not necessarily not.
So At the time, yeah, that's a good question, Sally. And at the time, I can't say that I knew that's what it was because I didn't. My family was not particularly, definitely not spiritual. I think the first manifestation of having those gifts didn't feel like a gift. It felt more like I'm different. I experience things way stronger than others. Um, Different things have always driven me. I've always been driven by a deeper desire, to fulfill the deepest things that I could do. And I've always been an extreme person, like all or nothing. And now I'm seeing as I get older, it's part of my gift is how intense I feel things and how intense my energy is. But at the time, I think the main thing is I didn't really know what was happening. I just had this deeper, more loud energy. Like earlier in life, like intuitively knowing what meditation was, like
Yeah.
I always like had this the first time I ever heard about meditation, it was like I thought in my mind, like, oh yeah, I know what that is. Like I know it it was almost like I was waiting for coming back into that because I my soul already knew that that was something that I enjoyed.
Please like and subscribe. I want you to know when this series drops because I want you to not feel so alone. And I want to hear your stories too. I want to hear them. So I want wild hearted, sensitive, neurodivergent people to be empowered to be in their spirituality in the world and live that spirituality because when we live that spirituality, uh, everything changes and we can live it and we can find connection through it and we don't have to feel so different anymore. We can reclaim this and we can give the gifts of our wild heart to the world because the world does need the gifts of our wild hearts. It really does, more than ever. Thank you.